Don't let the fear of the first time rob you of the ease and the joy of the 500th time, the 100th time, the whatever time, umpteenth time. Because you don't want to get out, go. You're holding yourself back. Release you, free you, free you. Make a t-shirt. That's on to get an airbrush. Free you, for real. No, seriously. Hey, welcome everybody. This is episode 3. This is a solo episode, and I want to sit down and talk about the power of showing up. So let's get into it. Let's waste no time. I'm realizing as I get more and more into this journey that we do call life, that so much of what we do is really just about like showing up, being in the space. There is something about the intention of saying, I know I might not have everything together. I know I might not, um, be perfect, because at the end of the day, that doesn't exist. But even still, flaws and all, like Beyonce, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up and see what happens. And I'm going to put my best foot forward. So it's not saying that I'm not perfect and I'm like completely unprepared, though some people get down like that and they just, that might be another level. But it's just saying there's something to be said, especially when you say you're going to be there and say you're going to do something, the power of showing up, the power of showing up. One, if you don't show up, how are you going to get what you need? If you don't show up, how are you going to be in the number to be chosen? Whether that be for a job, an opportunity, whatever. If you don't show up into the space, you automatically remove yourself from being able to get that thing, the job, the whatever, you know? So I just find that so often we psych ourselves out of actually showing up into the space because we know that not showing up disqualifies us. So basically, it's like, oh, I'm not going to show up because that gives me a pass, because I know that I won't get it anyway. So I can say, oh, I didn't get it because I didn't show up. And so then you absolve yourself of responsibility. You absolve yourself sometimes of getting that thing. And when we tap into that fear of success thing, or how it hides itself as, feeling guilty for being the one who got certain opportunities when other family members didn't, when actually it's your job to, because the opportunity was presented to you. So that means when it shows up in your space, or the fact that it did show up into your space, means that it was indeed for you. So as I get into this thought process, there's a couple things that go through my head. Now that I'm spending time focusing on, again, relationships, communication, and those things are just so heavy, and I'm noticing how important they are and how we cyclically kind of create the same problems over and over. And just because it's a different person, different place, we're discussing a different thing, we consider it different. When the reality is that, okay, technically everything's going to be different. Yeah, it's not in the same place, can't ever be in the same time, but we have to notice patterns. And so one pattern that I notice that prevents us from having the connections and the opportunities that we want is, once again, not showing up, because essentially we're afraid. I think we're afraid of what happens when we do show up. The conversations, specifically conversations. There's been multiple times with friends, especially family, where I'm noticing that instead of actually showing up and having a conversation, showing up and confronting someone, that people just don't show up at all. And it's not like it goes away. the situation doesn't go away. And it just compounds on itself and gets worse. And so I started showing up. And at first, it was really discouraging to me because one, how people received it when I did show up and said what I had to say. I do have an air of like, or reputation. Like, oh man, that was really harsh. That was really, and I've actually kind of grown into that because I don't want specifically everything that I say to necessarily be so easy to swallow. Like I needed to jolt you a little bit if I'm caring enough to like say it. And I'm gonna check myself and ask to be checked, you know, by the creator to when I'm being legitimately too harsh. And I'm always, but I needed to, sometimes you need something to just shake, like just clear the dust off the reality, like clear the facade off the reality, really, like whatever this weird, thing that we consider normal that's really not normal. I need to break that, shake that up. So anyway, when I started showing up and having these difficult conversations or uh, initiating them, a lot of people weren't really for it. And I thought that the mere fact of me showing up would mean other people would show up too. And that's not the case. But, and this is the point, this is one of the powers of showing up. Showing up is not just for you, it's not just about the other person showing up. It's ideal. But as we know in relationships, like you have your part and the other person has their part. That's every person one on one. You can only do what you can do. You can only present, hey, I'm showing up. I'm sitting at the table. I'm ready to have this discussion. I'm ready to listen. If they don't show up, yo, that's on them. That's their work. And it honestly took me until very recently to not just be so like, because in my mind, it's offensive. In my mind, it's saying that you don't care enough to show up. And I'm realizing that I understand where my interpretation comes with that. Like that's because if I don't show up in my experience, in my reality, I don't show up, that means I don't care. But for some people, it just means that they're avoiding conflict. Again, we're different universes trying to mesh together and understand one another and communicate somewhat cohesively. And so if in another person's reality, in the past it got ugly every time people came to the table, or they don't like uncomfortable conversations, or it's just so cringe, or so whatever you're bringing up is so, the thought of actually openly talking about it is so scary that they don't want to sit down. That fear isn't stronger than them getting it out of the way. And we all know, I haven't always been in this space. Yes, it's definitely easier when you have, some of these fears on you to just let time kind of like, I gotta do it. Does that mean that issue's gonna continue to be brought up until, yeah. But for that particular moment, it feels like you got out of it. It feels like the other person evaded something. They kind of got, back into their normal flow, which was really just the beginning of the cycle, whatever cycle that they're in. Because I noticed it with my own family. Like I grew up where there was a cycle of, there's a rupture in communication, something goes wrong. It doesn't really get talked about. Silence, silence, silence. Okay, people are starting to warm up again. All right, people are, joking and tugging and pushing, and initiating physical touch to say sorry without really saying sorry, or that we're cool again. But honestly, that other part of the cycle where there was some miscommunication, disagreement, fight, whatever, like that was the next part of the cycle, because a lot of the stuff wasn't getting resolved. So what else can it do? And that is the part that is the most frightening about a cycle, is because you get so used to it. It feels so emotionally right. It's almost breadcrumbs to each part of the cycle, such that you really have to make an effort to do something different. It's like I've said this before, but it's like you drawing your finger in the dirt over and over and over and over. Okay, by the 100th time you do that, you're going to start to create a groove for your finger. The more you do it, the deeper that groove is going to become. And so with these cycles that we're in with our families, especially where there's been a history of communicating in a certain way or whatever the cycle may be, imagine how deep that groove is. So imagine now you got a groove that's, your finger deep. When you try to get out of it, it's going to take some effort. Like you're in there, you're in that cycle. And for me, the thing that got me out of a lot of those cycles is just, I got tired when I noticed it. And that's why they say awareness is the first step. It's cliche, but it's true, because when you're aware of something, you're watching it happen. You're no longer, again, just, oh, a breadcrumb. Oh, another breadcrumb. Like you're like, okay, this is the breadcrumbs of the cycle. Two totally different awarenesses that puts you in a totally different position. So when I started to become aware, when I started to notice these cycles, I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this if I can help it, because I see my grandparents doing it. I see my parents doing it. I don't want to do it and then think it's different. I would hate for my children or anybody under me to be like, oh, there's Kendra repeating that cycle. She doesn't even see it. And like now I'm just, like what we're aware of, we are now responsible for. Once it enters your awareness, you are now responsible for it. That's why ignorance is bliss. Because when you're ignorant of something, you don't know anything there's nothing to notice. You can't see it. It literally is not a part of your reality. But once you do, it very much is. And so you are very much responsible. Now, when you're not stopping those cycles, when you're not being intentional about doing something different than the way you see it's always been done, there are repercussions because you're aware. And so I didn't want to have those. And I'm like, if people stop talking to me, fine. If people, if I gain another reputation for, we gotta kind of avoid her, that's fine. But what I'm not gonna do is act like I don't see these. I can't. I don't want to be one more link in this particular chain. Now, all these other great family traditions that we have, yes, that's very much a cycle that I want to carry on. But these other ones, nah, I can't do that. I can't do that. Even when, because at first you'll still participate, like you'll still catch yourself in those. But the more that you become aware, the more that got me. I emotionally went into that groove again. Okay, I'm gonna be more aware next time. And it's really that simple, but it's not necessarily easy. And so therein is the issue. But let me tell you the beautiful part. This is another power of showing up. For the other people that don't show up, that's a lesson for them. Again, there is something to be said when you know someone presented something to you and you didn't take it. Like, someone was sitting, waiting to have a conversation with you or say, hey, I want to discuss this. This is something that I noticed, and you didn't show up. it's different. It's an expectation. Even if they don't act on it, it's in there. It's in their minds somewhere. And for the person that does show up, it's exponentially better. Because it takes courage. It takes courage to show up. It's not about showing up for the sake of the other person showing up. It's the intention that you showed up expressly for the purpose of, nah, I'm not gonna, I see how this has gone before, or this is how this has gone in my life before, and I care enough not to do this anymore. I want to do this different. I want to be intentional about doing this different. And so you just change the whole dynamic again. And this is not necessarily an actual table, but when you show up and you're sitting at a table, again, we're talking about whatever the space is. Let's talk again, let's keep it on the relationship tip. When you sit down and you show up for an uncomfortable conversation, let's say, that takes, you're gonna reap that. You're gonna reap the benefits of that. Because it's not just about the showing up, it's about what the showing up represents. It's about what the showing up says about you and where you are here. It's a reality shift. The fact that you showed up is a reality shift about who you think you are. You're not a person that acts like something they don't see anything or doesn't see anything. You're a person who shows up. That alone, that's a reality shifter. I'm so serious about that. What does that say about you? How you define yourself in terms of the I ams? Who are you? You're a person who shows up. That's different. That's a totally different reality. It's a totally different reality. And so if the other person shows up, fantastic. That is a goal. But don't think that when other people don't, that it's a failure, because it's not. The other person knows. I believe the other person sees like, damn, I didn't show up. And maybe it reveals some work that has to be done on their side. Because I know nothing comes to mind right now, but I definitely know that there's been situations where someone has presented me like, and I didn't show up in the way in which they wanted me to because of whatever I was feeling at the time, of who I was at the time. Because that's really what it represents. How you move represents who you are, is a representation of who you are, rather. And so we got to do that. If you're the person who's been in a situation where they didn't show up, think about it. Ask yourself why you didn't. Put yourself in the situation and say, now what is my mindset such that, and this is for when someone's asking you to show up for something positive, obviously. What is my mindset such that I didn't show up? Where does that come from? What's the earliest memory I can remember of feeling like I didn't want to show up? Why? What was that situation? I'm talking about really break it down. Why didn't you show up? Where does that stem from? Where are the roots of that coming from? There's definitely been some situations where I acted like one thing in the present that had roots way back when I actually sat and thought about it. And it's like that a lot. A good chunk of what we do is a representation of things that happened to us in the past. It just is what it is. Nobody has to feel bad about it. I do my best, because admittedly, I do like, yeah, when you didn't show up? Nah, I don't throw shade like that, but it does still like damn, because you want people to show up. You do. It's not that you don't want it. The fact that you came and sat down means that you were hopeful that they would. So something could change, because again, it takes two people, it takes two parties for a relationship, a situation, anything happening between more than one human is going to take more than one human being present to shift that situation. Period. We can only do our part. But honestly and truly, once I have the chance to step back and really think about it, after that initial hurt of the person not showing up, I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's uncomfortable. I get it. This situation has been going on for so long that the thought of it being different, maybe you can't imagine what that would look like. Maybe it's embarrassing. I've had some family situations about family members that I'm like, yeah, all family ain't family. We need to talk about it. That's uncomfortable. I know, but it's not more uncomfortable than what the situation is presently. It's not worse than what the situation is presently. And I'm telling you, that's what inspired me to move like how I move. When we really think about it, we are avoiding betterment. Whether that be you learning how to have uncomfortable conversation, which is a paramount part of life, it's going to happen. And you either going to be the person that's practiced or unpracticed. And there's very much a difference. You can very much tell. Or just whatever the case is, like it's benefits to going ahead and working the situation out, literally only for your good. Avoiding it, you already know what that looks like. It feels copacetic, but we know it's not. Let's stop pretending. This is crazy. That's how I'm like, that's how I was starting to feel. This is borderline some type of psychosis. Why are we pretending like we don't see this? Why are we not talking about it? And that's all that it is. It comes down to our emotions and that root of fear. But I started to fear the continuation of the situation more than talking about it. That scares me more. It scares me more that this situation could be like this for the next however many years instead of us dealing with it right now. I would really hate to be up off this planet and it still be a thing because I didn't talk about it because I didn't want to make people feel uncomfortable. I don't care about that. Like, bump all this comfort. Look, clench your booty cheeks or whatever you need to do in your seat. Let's talk about it. We're all gonna feel better at the end, and if not, let's take some time away. Boom, it's been discussed. Let's let let's think about it a little bit and come back. What are we actually avoiding? But a better situation. It's about changing minds. This is about our individual journeys. And the hilarious part is once again, when we don't show up, that same situation will keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And the more we try to juke and evade, and that's right here again. It's right here again. Why? Because the lesson is to confront it. The lesson is to change it. Why are you running? And when it's not really an issue, it's really because both people don't have the courage to discuss it. That's why there's power in showing up, because it takes courage to change. It takes energy and effort and intentionality to change a situation, to show up. Financial, again, show up for that interview. Change your family's financial future. Show up for that opportunity. Show up for that open mic. Show up on that computer. Show up in that course and get it done. It's going to have implications that far, I'm talking exponentially, go past you in your lifetime. And then the beautiful part about how our minds work and our spirits work is then you start to get used to it. That's when it gets sweet. Then it's like, hey, I'm starting to get comfortable. It's starting to not feel, it don't feel so tight. Yeah, then that's definitely where I am. Public speaking, open mics. And when I start to feel uncomfortable about showing up again, that's how I know it's time to show up in some different ways again. I need to feel a little bit uncomfortable. That comfortability starting to shrink in a little bit. I'm not practicing. That's when you get dangerous. That's when you stop. Oh, man, I wish I could really impart the experiences that I have, like, as a feeling, to show how beautiful overcoming fear and what will they think, what will they say, I better act like I didn't see it. The other side of that is so beautiful. You become a powerful person. And that's because that surface level of humanity, like, you start to see beneath that. Like, oh, okay. That's how people that we look, put on a pedestal, that's how they're moving. That's how they're moving. They realized something. They realized that, oh, most of it is just showing up because most people are afraid to. Most. And it doesn't have to be like that. We don't have to literally let fear, that's the only thing that could be keeping you from it. And some powerful people do it. I was going to say, like, especially if it's not like in that situation, but some of the most powerful people do it anyway. The Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's and all the Black Panthers and anybody that people in the military, they show up, even with it being a life or death situation. There's a power in that. What type of spirit do you have to be to show up anyway? Think about that. What type of spirit do you have to be? Do you have to show up even in the face of any adversity, and you build upon it? I'm sure the people that started putting their, lives on the line didn't do that day one. They became that. They started showing up and kind of, again, testing these fake walls that we put ourselves in or that get put on us. They started testing those and realized, one, it's tight in here. I'm not going to be in here for the rest of my life. Like, I can't navigate the world like this. And then they start to knock them down and realize a lot of them are false. It's actually pretty vast out here once you knock them down. Then they start to find other people like them and see how they move, how they eat. Their results in the world are different. Just based on showing up. Just based on doing things that other people are too afraid to even be in the space to receive. Different. And I feel like that's the whole game. The world is, at this point, and not the earth, but the world, there seems to be something about, like, convincing you to not show up for yourself. Convincing you that what they're providing you, that low hanging fruit, is is enough to sustain you. And honestly, it is just that, just enough to sustain you. That there's not so much more abundance past what they're giving you. And that's what I feel like the whole Study the Ascent brand is. It's about studying the mindset of those who have seen and are seeing a certain level of ascension in multiple areas of their life, but honestly, like as a being, because I was watching D. Ray Wise Relationship Alchemy on YouTube. Check her out. She's really dope. And she said, be, do, have. That's how you get what you want. You become that person first, that kind of person. Then you do the things that that person would do. Then you get what that person should have. Be, do, have. Not have, then be, then do. You become that person first. And that's why I said it's not about the fact, even when nobody else shows up, that you showed up. It's about the fact that, or that they didn't show up. It's about the fact that you did and what that says about where you are here. That changes your entire reality. Because you're being something and you're doing something because of who you are here. So that means you're going to have what this person has, what they get as a result of how they move throughout the world. Like, period. How they navigate the world will make a difference in terms of what they have, the experiences, the opportunities, the people that they're around. And that's another thing. I'm also becoming less attached to who stays around and who doesn't. Because this really is a vibrational thing. Like, to the people that I make uncomfortable because I want to talk about things and make them better, they may decide that, yeah, you do the absolute most. Like, it doesn't feel good to be around you. You're always upsetting me, like making me talk about things I don't want to talk about. We're not going to be a match. And yeah, that's going to hurt my feelings initially, but it's just that it's not a match. And that's okay. That is okay. You don't have to have a whole, like, don't have a conniption. Don't flip out. A person may come around later, they might not. But it's just an indication of where they are and where you are. Because there's, again, been situations where I've been on the other side. Nah, I ain't trying to hear what you're talking about. And I come back later like, I get it now. And sometimes based on how that person treated me when I wasn't getting it and not, belittling me or whatever, even if we got into an altercation, they kind of just, okay. Or disagreement, I don't come to blows about it, but like just a disagreement, like, okay, we not like planes in the night. We not, yeah. But based on how they handled it, I came back later like, hey, thank you. I see now. Thank you for giving me grace, because I didn't see it then like I see it now. And that's the beautiful part about the person who shows up, is because they plant a seed. Yeah. Be a seed planter. For whatever you want, for whatever opportunity. You want to be an artist, plant a seed at that open mic. somebody in the back might like how you said whatever you said. And even if you didn't get whatever the prize was, you planted a seed. Next time they see you, you're not a stranger. When you keep showing up, then you develop rapport. Now you've developed a relationship, and relationships create opportunities. Come on. I get, yo, I get excited because it really is like this. When you realize it, you start doing more, you start showing up more, you start talking to people more, you start putting yourself out there more. There's very little that I'm afraid to talk about. There's a very little that I'm afraid to do. Stand up, you know, I have some biomedical background. Okay, we talking about, yeah, people up, like I'm waiting for you to not mess up, but I'm about to see if you really know what you're talking about. On that academic, high academic, all of it. No, I'm gonna stand here. I'm gonna show up. Cause this is who I am. And I deserve to be here. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that's powerful. So, just to recap, y'all, because we're gonna go ahead and wind this down. You know, this is the Quiet Storm episode. Keep showing up. If you've never done it before, decide that that's who you are and do it. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. With anything, you know, the first time you did something, the first time you bounced a basketball didn't feel like the 100th time you did. It's how we're wired. Let's tap into, like, let's use how we're wired for our benefit. Don't let the fear of the first time rob you of the ease and the joy of the 500th time, the 100th time, the whatever time, umpteenth time. Because you don't want to go. You're holding yourself back. Release you, free you. Free you. Make a t-shirt. And that's on to get an airbrush. Free you. For real. No, seriously. Some stuff is us. There are, you know, certain things where we have to navigate around, but a lot of it is just us. A lot of it is us holding ourselves back. And it's super whack. In case you wanted to know, or in case anybody was wondering. Super whack. We deserve more. We deserve better. You deserve the fruit of what showing up brings. You deserve the ease of what showing up consistently feels like. Don't tell me you don't, because I know you feel that you do. We feel that. That's what we're striving for. That's why you felt that. You felt that end. You felt the end goal. So that you can start. I really feel like I could be yeah, that's why you felt it. To push you over the fear of starting so you can get to that part that you were feeling and why you said you wanted to be what you wanted to be. You wanted to do what you wanted to do, or you wanted to have the things that you know you should have. So show up. That's how you get them. Be, do, have. That's how you get them. Be that person and show up in that space, knowing that you belong there, because that's who you are. That's who you're being. I'm a person who shows up. You at the open mic, again, be. I'm a poet, I'm a writer, I'm a spoken word artist, I'm a rapper, I'm a be. Do your thing when you're there. Don't be timid. It could be some nerves, that's fine. But you can even think yourself out of those. Practice it, for real. If you have to step into create some type of alter ego until both of them can mesh together, and alter ego is just that, it's being. I'm imagining myself as a person who already be that. You don't necessarily need call it an alter ego, your being. So you can do your thing. So you can have the things you know you're supposed to have. So, man, this was a good one. I am really excited about just everything that this podcast, this platform, this brand will be. What the people that I will meet, the opportunities that will come from this, which has already happened, which is wild. This is episode 3, but it's what I expected at the same time because I know how this works. And I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because this is who I am. I show up. Am I still working on areas where I'm like, yeah, you could have shown up a little bit better on right there on that particular thing? Yeah, of course. It's a consistent ascension. I'm always studying, always a student. But study also means watch. Watch what people do. Watch how they move. Watch how they think. Study them. And if it's me, fine, I'll be that, because there's been 1,000 people who are that for me and who are that. There will always be people for me to look up to and study. But watch me rise. Watch again. This is episode 3, still early. Keep watching. I'm going to keep being here. I'm going to keep showing up. And that energy is going to compound and it's going to develop momentum. And then that momentum is going to create. And then I'm going to, man, my goal is to bless everybody that I meet, to create genuine connections, just being a solid person, a person that's known for showing up. Oh my gosh. I hope somebody heard me. I really do. Because it's a day and night thing. I used to be a very shy child. Hide behind my mom. There was always that fire, but I hide behind my mom, and this is kind of like I feel the pressure of just, yeah, somewhere around high school, I'm like, yes, this is gonna hold me back. I just started doing random stuff. I just started showing up in random places that I really had. I was an athlete in school, and that was really all that I was doing outside of academics. My last year, I'm like, I need to shake it up. These athletics really aren't doing it for me like that. I tried out for a musical, completely bombed. I can actually hold a note, but I was scared. But there's power in showing up even still, even if you're scared. And I bet if I started as a freshman, I would have been killing it as a senior. But I just did it as a senior because I started to expose myself to things that I didn't normally do, which is all that fear is. The brain is designed to keep us from things that are outside of the norm. Oh, we don't do that. What are you doing? Why are you going there? We don't do that. Oh, we do now. That's why it's mind over matter. We do now. And then once we get used to it, this is now a thing that we do. Boom, it's that simple. Tried out for different sports, softball. I played basketball and track. I tried out for softball. Started raising my hand to speak, and this is in college now. Started raising my hand to speak in front of large conferences because I knew that would develop me in terms of what it was like to speak when everybody's watching you. When there's you could hear a pin drop and people are listening to the way in which you articulate, and can you articulate a question well when everybody's looking at you? Just because I didn't really have a lot to question. I really have a question, like I really got to get this. Sometimes I'm sure, but most times it was just for that, let me do something that makes me uncomfortable. Because I know that the more reps that I get, the easier that'll become. So we're going to end that here. I'm really excited, y'all. I can't really stress that enough. I'm excited for every person that will be on here, and I'm excited to know more about you guys. So at Study the Ascent on Instagram, at Study the Ascent Twitter. Follow me. Tell me about yourselves. DM me, whatever. I do respond and hit people back. And if there's a way in which we can collaborate and it's fruitful for both of us, let's absolutely do it. Let's absolutely do it. So, y'all, it's been beautiful, good people. I hope that you guys have an amazing rest of your week. I'll see you guys for episode straight like that. And yeah, until next time.